So e-cigarettes, vapes, vape pens, these products were introduced in the US in 2007. The early devices closely resembled a cigarette and were disposable. Over the past few years, they've evolved and diversified. Today, you can find large devices with big tank batteries and others that are much more sleek, high-tech, and discreet. However, all of these products operate essentially in the same manner. They heat a liquid solution to produce an inhalable aerosol of nicotine and ultrafine particles, often containing chemicals known to cause cancer. This is not just a harmless water vapor. According to California state law, e-cigarettes cannot be used anywhere cigarette smoking is prohibited. Therefore, under state law, vaping is smoking. By 2014, e-cigarettes were the most common type of tobacco product used among youth, and their popularity has just continued to grow. One high nicotine product, the Juul, really took off and has captured 68% of the market in the past year alone. With their growth and popularity, more and more kids are becoming addicted to nicotine. Nicotine is a very addictive drug, and the concentration of nicotine in a Juul, for example, is 3 times the limit set by the European Union. Therefore, the Juul, the most popular device sold in the US, is not even legally available in Europe. Nicotine poses a unique threat to the developing brain. Exposure to nicotine during adolescence increases the risk of developing psychiatric disorders and cognitive impairment later in life. And nicotine is not the only drug being delivered through these devices. Local surveys have found that students in our county are using these devices to consume marijuana, alcohol, and even amphetamines, cocaine, and heroin. What's more, 25% of students in these surveys report using just flavorings, which blows my mind because I know that 99% of e-cigarette products sold locally contain nicotine. These kids don't know what they're putting in their bodies, they just know it tastes good. The increasingly high concentration of nicotine also seems to counterindicate their use as a cessation device for adults. Longitudinal studies released in the past year have revealed similarities in long-term health impacts between combustible cigarettes and their electronic counterparts, including increased risk of heart disease. My dad was a lifelong closet smoker. I never saw him smoke a day in my life. He was ashamed of his addiction. He died of a heart attack at age 65, and I was the 10-year-old who found him one morning before school lying face down on his bed. What can we do to prevent the next generation of nicotine addicts? The US Surgeon General and other top health officials have labeled youth vaping an epidemic. Last year in our county, current use of e-cigarettes was as high as 42% among our non-traditional students and 22% for all students in 11th grade. This isn't a problem in our high schools alone. This is an issue facing our middle and elementary schools as well. The average age of onset for adult nicotine dependence is 10 years of age. Tobacco use is a pediatric disease. Our program is receiving more frequent requests to do classroom presentations on vaping. This appears to be the most obvious and perhaps the easiest response to the issue at hand, but this is not adequate to resolve the problem we're facing. Counseling and education are appropriate for isolated incidences, but have low population impact. In addition to our outreach efforts, we need to focus on policy change. Late last year, the FDA released data showing a 78% jump in youth e-cigarette use from the previous school year. Their response was to focus on the wide availability and variety of flavored e-cigarette products, 15,000 and counting. The tobacco industry has a long history of using flavorings to target youth. In 2009, the FDA banned flavored cigarettes nationwide. However, this ban didn't or does not still extend to non-cigarette tobacco products. As a response, since 2010, 26 cities and counties in California have passed their own local policies restricting the sale of all flavored tobacco products, essentially closing a giant loophole in tobacco regulation. Unfortunately, 0 communities on the Central Coast are included in that list of 26. So we will continue our education and outreach efforts, but we, our community, need something big. We need you, the adults in this room, to make this a priority and take action to fight the youth vaping epidemic and prevent the next generation of nicotine addicts. Thank you.